Venezuela is to return to a strict lockdown to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Hundreds of thousands of students returned to primary and middle schools in the Chinese capital, Beijing, this Saturday. Lebanon's Prime Minister-Designate toured blast-hit neighbourhoods near Beirut's port shortly after being appointed on Monday. From the headquarters of Teleso English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. We begin in Venezuela, where President Nicolas Maduro announced that the country would return to a strict lockdown in an attempt to slow the spread of the novel coronavirus. President Maduro insisted on the importance of maintaining social distancing measures in order to break the virus transmission chains. He also highlighted the effectiveness of the 7+7 method, which combines a week of the relaxation of measures to reactivate economic activity, followed by a similar period of limits on mobility and the closure of most businesses and entities, except essential sectors linked to the food, healthcare and industrial fields. Venezuela reported 922 new cases of COVID-19 on Sunday, taking the total number of confirmed cases to over 45,000. Meanwhile, COVID-19 has caused 381 deaths. Venezuelan Vice President for Communications Jorge Rodriguez announced the approval of a presidential pardon which benefits Venezuelan opposition figures this Monday ahead of parliamentary elections set for December this year. Speaking at a press conference, Rodriguez noted that the decision was approved taking into account the recommendations of the Justice, Peace and Public Safety Commission, while noting that 110 opposition leaders, together with 23 lawmakers and 4 political substitutes, would be pardoned. He highlighted that the move aims to guarantee and deepen a national reconciliation process in order to address political issues in a peaceful and constitutional manner. Rodriguez also stressed that attacks on the Venezuelan government in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic and at a time when national unity is crucial to face the US economic blockade represent an attack on all Venezuelans. The Brazilian Health Ministry has reported 366 COVID-19 deaths in the past 24 hours. According to the latest figures, the death toll now stands at almost 121,000. The epidemic shows no signs of slowing in Brazil, where only this weekend over 16,000 new cases were registered. Brazil has now reported over 3.8 million cases and is expected to cross the 4 million mark in the coming days. Despite the figures, authorities are lifting restrictions and hundreds of people continue to visit the beaches of Rio de Janeiro, one of the cities most affected by the pandemic. And the coronavirus pandemic continues to impact Peru, which has reported the second highest COVID-19 figures in South America, behind Brazil. The Ministry of Health reported over 7,000 new cases in the past 24 hours and 181 deaths, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to over 647,000, while the COVID-19 death toll stands at over 28,000. Meanwhile, a recent government-sponsored campaign has been widely rejected as it blames the spike in coronavirus cases on the population for failing to observe social distancing and hygiene measures. Critics say that this argument seeks to distract from the responsibility of the state to ensure the adequate measures to protect public health. A total of 3 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed in Barbados on Sunday and have been isolated. Health authorities informed that 277 tests were conducted from Saturday, while 4 infected people were given the all-clear, having recovered from the virus. The new cases are a 33-year-old male visitor to the country and a 42-year-old Barbadian man who both entered Barbados aboard a British Airways flight on August 25th and tested positive in a second test. The third case is a 24-year-old Barbadian female student who arrived on a Caribbean Airlines flight from the Bahamas via Jamaica. A total of 173 cases have been confirmed in the country, and there are currently 21 people in isolation, while 145 have recovered from the virus.
By the US-based Johns Hopkins University show the global coronavirus cases.
British authorities have announced that anyone travelling from Jamaica to the United Kingdom will now have to undergo a mandatory 14-day quarantine period on arrival. The British Foreign and Commonwealth Office removed Jamaica from its list of Caribbean countries from which British citizens do not have to undergo a quarantine as of 4 a.m. Saturday. The FCO has issued a general warning to its citizens against all non-essential travel, but has created an exemption list of nations to which Britons can continue to travel. Barbados, Cuba, St. Lucia and Antigua and Barbuda remain on that list, which is frequently revised. Jamaica has now recorded over 1,800 COVID-19 cases and 21 deaths. And also in Jamaica, over 45,000 Election Day workers, police officers and military personnel are expected to go to the polls this Monday, 3 days before the rest of the population, in order to guarantee the electoral process of September 3rd. According to the Electoral Commission, members of the security forces will vote at the location closest to where they are based. The ballots will later be sorted and transferred to the respective returning officers to be counted on September 3rd, along with those of the rest of the population. As part of the measures adopted to prevent the spread of the coronavirus during the vote, inside the polling station, instead of the usual pencil attached to the voting booth and used by all electors, each voter will be given an individual pencil that is sanitised before and after use. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. "590,000 students returned to primary and middle schools in the Chinese capital Beijing this Saturday as part of a slow reopening of schools and universities. Schools are equipped with touch-free hand-washing equipment on each floor. Constant hand-washing and temperature checks are some of the measures imposed to prevent COVID-19 infections. Social distancing, including through the use of lines on the floor spaced 1 metre apart, are also part of the changes put in place to remind students to observe the measures. Beijing authorities deployed more than 1,000 inspectors to check anti-epidemic and security preparations, including facial recognition devices, social distancing, disinfectants and other measures to help halt the spread of COVID-19 in the city.
I think it's quite moving, actually. I feel like it's very nice.
The World Health Organization warned on Monday that opening up societies too quickly amid the coronavirus pandemic could be a recipe for disaster.
Monday, August 31.
We understand that countries want to get their societies and economies going again. That's what WHO wants to. Stay-at-home orders and other restrictions are something that some countries felt they needed to do to take pressure off their health systems. But they have taken a heavy toll on livelihoods, economies, and mental health. WHO fully supports efforts to reopen economies and societies. We want to see children returning to school and people returning to the workplace, but we want to see it done safely. At the same time, no country can just pretend the pandemic is over. The reality is that this coronavirus spreads easily. It can be fatal to people of all ages, and most people remain susceptible. If countries are serious about opening up, they must be serious about suppressing transmission and saving lives. This may seem like an impossible balance, but it's not. It can be done, and it has been done, but it can only be done if countries are in control of transmission. The more control countries have over the virus, the more they can open up. Opening up without having control is a recipe for disaster. It's not one size fits all. It's not all or nothing.
Of Bloomberg.
The United States has seen another weekend of violence and shootings, with 10 people killed in Chicago as of Sunday evening. At least 54 people were shot in the city over the weekend in different incidents. Among those wounded in shootings this weekend were 2 police officers who were wounded while trying to disarm a suspect during a traffic stop in Homer Square neighbourhood. A third officer shot the suspect, who has since been charged. Despite the spate of gun crimes, the media continue to focus on the alleged violence of Black Lives Matter protesters. In Portland, Oregon, there were clashes between the police and supporters of President Donald Trump. According to local media, a Trump 2020 cruise rally made its way through the downtown Portland area despite the police trying to keep it away. Police authorities tweeted Saturday that there were clashes between demonstrators and counter-demonstrators and reported that one man was killed. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is still planning to visit the city of Kenosha, Wisconsin this week after the Democratic state governor, Tony Evers, wrote him a letter urging him to reconsider as the city continues to see protests sparked by the police shooting of Jacob Blake. The White House Deputy Press Secretary noted that President Trump looks forward to visiting on Tuesday and helping this great city heal and rebuild, after the governor stressed in a public letter to the president that his presence would only hinder the city's healing and delay work to overcome division and move forward together.
That's not even a big force. We could clean out, as an example, Portland. We could fix Portland in, I would say, 40...
And President Donald Trump continues to seek to politically benefit from the violence in the United States. He's once again threatened to send the National Guard to Portland, Oregon, to control protests, as he seeks to convince the public that Democratic state governors and authorities are incapable of controlling demonstrators. Meanwhile, Trump has not condemned the shooting of Jacob Blake and has never managed to bring himself to state that Black Lives Matter.
Kenosha, it's been in very, very good shape from the moment they set foot in that area. The sheriff's been great, the police commissioner, the police chief has been great. We've been working with all of them, but the governor let us do what we had to do and we cleaned it out. We'll see what happens. We have to keep it going, but it's we won't have any problem.
Argentina successfully launched an Earth observation satellite this Sunday from a US Air Force station. The head of the Argentine mission of 13 specialists, who arrived almost 2 months ago to the Cape Canaveral station to finalise the details of the launch, said that it was not easy to rearm the entire team working for the mission as a result of the coronavirus. A group of 50 Argentinian professionals are working on orbital positioning and deployment of the radar antennas from 3 points in Argentina: Córdoba, Bariloche and Buenos Aires. The SAOCOM mission uses complex Earth observation technology, which represents a significant improvement over conventional optical sensors and was specially designed to detect soil moisture and obtain information on the Earth's surface in any weather conditions and at any time of the day.
We are one of the 10 countries in the world capable of placing satellites like the one we just launched. This accomplishment fills us with pride. In the midst of a complex pandemic, with all the difficulties, we have not stopped this endeavor. It started back in 2007. In this context, let's celebrate. Let's be very happy.
And the satellite, built entirely in Argentina, was praised by President Alberto Fernandez, who noted it would provide key data for agricultural production and emergency management. The idea of building this satellite was conceived 18 years ago during former President Néstor Kirchner's term, and the construction process took 8 years.
What I am proud of is that this is done by Argentine scientists. This is Argentina science. This is the capacity of our scientists. This science, this technology, has been developed by our own scientists. We see them there at the Cordobese headquarters of National Commission of Space Activities, and that we see them there in Bariloche at the headquarters of Limbapes, the enterprise which we all Argentinians are proud of, the effort of the government of Rio Negro and the national state.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Lebanon's Prime Minister-designate Mustafa Adlib toured blast-hit neighbourhoods near Beirut's port shortly after being appointed on Monday. Lebanese leaders named Adlib, who was serving as the country's ambassador to Germany, as the Prime Minister-designate on Sunday. In a televised speech after his nomination, he vowed to swiftly launch a reformist government and seek international financial assistance after the blasts in Beirut deepened a political and economic crisis. Adlib also will enjoy the support of the biggest party in the country, which is headed by former Prime Minister Said Hariri. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko discussed plans for a referendum on constitutional reforms on Monday, following 3 weekends of protests by opposition sectors supported by Western powers over the result of the August 9th presidential elections.
A return, as some say, to the 1994 constitution, you and I have not simply lived it, but we have absorbed it within us. We saw what was happening then. Going back is probably not a movement. It is a change, but it is not progress. I would like these changes to move our society forward. We will insist on such changes and purpose such changes to our people. I am ready to discuss a whole series of questions with you, even if it is only a brief first examination, because at the Constitutional Court you are working on the draft constitution. Then we will propose this draft to the public for discussion, so that they can express their opinion, what they like and what they don't like.
In Russia, the government is stepping up new measures to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus after deciding to reopen schools. Authorities are set to adopt a number of measures in schools that include a strict schedule for lessons and breaks, the ventilation of classrooms, social distancing and a daily disinfection process. However, students are not being forced to wear face masks. Almost 5,000 new coronavirus cases were confirmed in the country in the past 24 hours, bringing a total to over 995,000. Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 deaths rose to over 17,000. Sweden attracted worldwide attention earlier this year when it famously stayed open throughout the first months of the coronavirus pandemic, with authorities now holding out again, this time refusing to recommend the use of face masks. While most of the world has come to terms of covering their noses and mouths in crowded places, in Sweden, people using public transport, shopping for food and going to school are maskless, with only a few covering up. Public health officials argue that masks are not effective enough at limiting the spread of the virus to warrant their mass use, insisting it's more important to respect social distancing and hand-washing recommendations. The country has reported over 84,000 cases and more than 5,000 COVID-19 deaths.
There is no new evidence coming out, which is a bit surprising. Seeing so many countries introducing it, you will see that some evaluation will be in place and maybe it will be coming, and then the situation will be more clear when and how face masks actually makes a difference, and they don't. So right now there is definitely no reason to introduce something like that. We keep following the evolution, both when it comes to the spread in Sweden and the evolution of the knowledge around what face masks actually do.
Supporters of former President of the Ivory Coast, Laurent Gbagbo, who's been living in Belgium after being tried by the International Criminal Court, on Monday filed his candidacy for October's presidential election. The former president, who was freed conditionally after he was cleared in 2019 of crimes against humanity, had been barred by the country's electoral commission from running. The October 31st election in the world's leading producer of cocoa beans is set to be tense after years of political turbulence and civil war, and Gbagbo's return to national politics is highly sensitive. The country remains scarred by a conflict that erupted after the 2010 vote when Gbagbo refused to hand over power to current President Alassane Ouattara. Around 3,000 people lost their lives during the several months of violence that ensued. Iran's foreign minister stressed this Monday that the United States is enforcing the law of the jungle. In a message on social networks, Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif pointed out that the policy of all options on the table has long been a staple of US foreign policy and essentially means the law of the jungle, as it disregards the international principle of the non-use of force. He noted that the policy is also being applied domestically as President Trump threatens protesters. The diplomat noted that for several years the White House has threatened Iran with various moves, including war, and the Trump administration keeps these options on the table as Tehran disagrees with Washington on global policy, economics, trade and the military. Residents in the Pakistani city of Karachi began cleaning ruined homes and businesses this Monday after flooding sent rivers of dirty water through the country's biggest city. Successive days of storms have exposed the long-standing failures of Karachi's neglected and overwhelmed drainage system, and residents used a welcome break in the rain to vent their fury at what they see as gross mismanagement of municipal resources. Authorities did not immediately comment. During a single day last week, 18 Karachi residents died from flood-related incidents. The water was so deep in places that children were seen swimming in the streets. More than 100 Pakistanis died in August because of the monsoon weather, which has also destroyed more than 1,000 homes. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesourenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.